We hear at the Vigil a story of our salvation, a story that began long ago, long past. But I have to speak of our recent past. 2 years ago, we were denied the Easter Vigil and the Sacred Triduum. We were all on lockdown. We were unable to celebrate such as this. Even last year, we were unable to celebrate such as this. We were outside under the tent. A difference in 2 years in all of our lives has been transformed. We've seen how the world has been transformed over the millennia from the Judeo story and then the Christian story, and how the world is still being refashioned in these last 7 weeks since that war in Ukraine. Time is a very peculiar thing. Well, a few minutes ago, we entered a church that was more or less completely darkened. The only light came from the light of this Easter candle. Gradually, that light spread as we all lit our candles from the Easter candle. Jesus declared, "I am the light of the world," and he promised that those who follow him would never walk in darkness, but would have the light of life. The lighting of our Easter candle and the spreading of light from this candle expresses that declaration and promise of Jesus in a very dramatic way. The Feast of Easter is a feast of light. According to our gospel reading, on the first day of the week, at the first sign of dawn, the women went to the tomb with the spices they had prepared. There is a suggestion that the darkness of Good Friday was already beginning to lift at the first sight of dawn. The sun rising at dawn can speak to us of the rising of God's Son on Easter Sunday morning, the coming of God's light through the risen Jesus. The Jewish Sabbath was the 7th day of the week, our Saturday. What the gospel reading calls the first day of the week is our Sunday. If every sunrise can speak to us of Easter, even more so does every Sunday speak to us of Easter. On Sunday, we celebrate in a special way the good news that the light of God's love shines through the risen Jesus, through us, the light of darkness that cannot be overcome. That is why, from the earliest days, the church gathered to celebrate the Eucharist on Sunday. We meet the risen Lord in a special way in the evening, in the setting of a Sunday Eucharist. We meet him in many other places too. The 3 women in tonight's gospel reading go to the tomb bringing spices to anoint the body of Jesus. They wanted Jesus to have a dignified burial, even if he had an undignified death. Having been brutally put to death by a group of men, Jesus' body would be honored by a group of women. It was in the exercise of this important work of mercy that the women encountered the risen Lord. That is often how we meet the risen Lord as well. Whenever we perform a work of mercy for someone, anyone, some act of loving kindness, we meet the Lord, or more accurately, I think the Lord meets us. I noted in my Holy Thursday homily that John's Gospel omits the institution of the Eucharist. For John, the ministry found in the washing of the feet was a form of Eucharist. Many people regularly make the kind of journey that the women made in today's gospel reading. They set out on a journey with the equivalent of the women's spices to anoint someone with their loving service. Whenever we do that, the Lord comes to meet us. It's a moment of Eucharist. We are opening ourselves up to the same good news that the women heard on that first Sunday morning, that first Easter Sunday morning. The light of the risen Lord shines upon us. The spirit of loving service that the women displayed is the spirit of the risen Lord. When we do find the risen Lord today, the women discovered that they were looking for Jesus in the wrong place. He was not to be found in the tomb, in the place of death. The two heavenly messengers asked the women, "Why are you looking among the dead for someone who is alive? He is not here. The risen Lord is to be found where there is life, where the Holy Spirit is, the Spirit of God's enduring love. And that is the work of the Lord in a life-giving way. We find him where the weakest and the most vulnerable among us are cared for, with tenderness and compassion. We find him where women and men of faith are building communities that place Christ at the center.